Coming up, Jennifer Tilly joins Illeana in just a minute.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies.
And now, it's the I Blame Dennis Hopper podcast, starring Illeana Douglas. Eavesdrop with Illeana as she interviews Hollywood's most prominent players about filmmaking, acting, and what really happens on the set of your favorite flicks and TV shows.
Hello, everyone. Hi, it's Illeana Douglas with the I Blame Dennis Hopper podcast. Hello, Tamara Bird, my lovely co-host. My favorite day of the week, Thursday podcast. And we've got
Tuesday podcast.
Tuesday podcast, yes. Well, we shoot it. We can reveal that that we do it on Thursdays. But we just wanted to mention some amazing guests that we have coming up. Fred Willard.
Yes.
Thora Birch, of course. And Joe Dante. I'm very excited to be speaking to him. So thanks, everyone, for listening, and please continue.
And we've had some really great, amazing guests in the past, too. So if you're just joining us, scroll back through. Our website is illeanaspodcast.com. Go to the episodes page and you can see everything that we have done up to this point. And there are some incredible interviews, really insightful, interesting people with amazing stories.
Of course, I mean, going back to the beginning with Leslie Ann Warren and of course Alfred Molina, who we keep mentioning because he's on Feud and we love him so much. Also, congratulations to the wonderful Bette Midler, who is opening tonight on Broadway. Hello, Dolly. So very excited about that. And we're going to be talking to Jennifer Tilly, who I've known for close to 20 years. Speaking of feuds, no. She's the greatest, and she's just a lot of fun. And I was
also
always
been on Broadway.
Been on Broadway, yes, my goodness, been on Broadway. In The Women, I saw her on Broadway. She was fantastic, and in a movie called Bullets Over Broadway. So
Oscar nominated.
Yes, that's 2 Broadways.
Yes,
that she has over me. Oh, look at us. How cute. Look at us there together.
That cute picture.
Yeah, we also did, we used to do the celebrity autobiography together quite a bit, although doing the movie Bella Mafia, as I wrote about in my book, or as I called it, the roulette wheel of insanity.
I love your stories about Bella Mafia.
I know, and
They're pretty fantastic.
One of the highlights of doing the book, of course, was reading and then having Jennifer Tilly read as herself. That was kind of my fantasy of having someone actually, kind of go behind the scenes and talk about what happened. Because I always wanted to be in a movie that was like Noises Off, where everything kind of went wrong, but we lived to tell the tale.
Yes, you did. You did.
So that was, so that'll be fun. We'll talk about that and many, many more things coming up.
Yeah. So I had thought.
Yes.
You have been having telephone issues.
Well, I refuse to give up my lucky phone. It's
not so lucky when it doesn't work and you have to carry a paperclip with you at all times. I'm appealing to the world. Someone needs to give celebrity Illeana Douglas a new phone because she's not going to buy one herself.
Well, I have the phone. So I have the phone, and then it breaks down, and the only way to reboot it is you have to put, for those of you, if this happens, is on the side is a little slot. You put a little pin or a paper clip in it, and you pop out the SIM card and you put it back in, and it works. Incidentally, I have the same thing in my back.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Actress reboot. But so I have a friend, and I said, the only way we're going to do it, you're going to have to force me. My phone is from, get ready, 2011.
Oh, wait. We have one better. Yeah. John, would you like to share your phone?
How old is your phone?
You can show it to us.
I love my old phone. It's my Jerry Lewis phone.
It is.
Because I called. Wow, that's a flip phone.
That's a flip phone.
So now you're like Jerry Lewis. You've got the flip phone.
He's got the flip phone, and it's too bad they can't see the screen on it because it's like 2/3 of it you can't see. It looks like it's got mold across. It's not mold, but that's what it looks like when a screen degrades.
Is it your lucky phone?
No, it's not lucky. I just don't care enough about phones to replace.
Yeah.
Those of us who like to call John really care about his phone because it rings about half the time.
Yeah,
and
that's kind of fun. It's exciting. Anti-technology.
Yeah, you people make me crazy. I am the tech nerd for my entire
everything?
community. Not so much like I don't go out and buy the latest thing, but when things go awry, I am the person people call. I am the one. You know, I've literally been in London and, you know, gotten a phone call. Hi, I need some tech support from a family member, and had to give tech support over the phone, international phone calls.
Yes.
That's what I do.
Well, it's scary because every time you, as we now know, every time you upgrade, you lose something. And so I got as far as to go to the Grove to buy a phone, and I was all set and really excited. And then they said, "Have you backed everything up? Because there's a big chance that you're going to lose everything."
Yeah.
When you got a new phone. And I was like, wow, that's a great sales technique. Thank you. I think we'll go to Bennett's Ice Cream now. So I did not buy a phone. I went home and today made an appointment. So where I'm going to back up everything on my computer. It'll be a complete nightmare.
If I lived closer to you, I would do that tech support for you.
You'd do that?
I would.
Yeah.
I would. Next time.
But I'm close. I'm close to getting a new phone. Although I love my old phones. You know, I keep everything. I have old phone machines. I have old phone messages.
Nice.
I keep everything. I have message. You know, I can't get rid of messages.
No, of course.
Do you keep messages?
Of course I do.
Yeah. So. I you know, no, you don't
know.
Oh my God, I have to listen to these. I'm like, that's the day that so-and-so called me.
Yeah.
And cheers me up.
I have a couple of people who are going to be guests on the show at some point who I've saved their messages because they're pretty iconic people. I can't say yet because we haven't booked them for sure.
Yes.
But you know at least a couple of them.
Yes,
well, you know
do.
all of them, but I mean.
I do.
You know, a couple of them are like, oh, blank called me.
Yeah.
Here, listen.
I think a lot of people, you know, in this, I love hearing voice messages. I think it's, you know, it's kind of funny. People sound different when they leave you a message. I think there's something nice. I wonder if I have Jennifer Tilly I'll have to go home in my archive.
Exactly. Pull out your
and see what I have.
BASF tapes.
I used to do
tapes.
I used to have a mixtape of all celebrities. It was just like, hey, Illeana, it's Cuba Gooding, you know.
Oh, that's great.
And then when you put them all together, it was pretty fun. But we don't have mixtapes anymore.
That's fantastic.
Yeah,
do you still have that tape?
I do. And in fact, when we did Bella Mafia with Vanessa Redgrave, she used to call me, and I used to put, I would put her voice message, and then I'd have a song like, you know, theme from The Hunger. You know, I would always like to start with a voice message. I have no idea why. It's like, it just seems otherworldly.
I just want to clarify. So you scored your messages?
Yes. Okay. Oh, my God. I had a roommate when we were in the 80s, my roommate and I, Stephen Rogers, is now a very successful screenwriter. People used to call, you know, because we would make these elaborate, you know, 30-second phone
outgoing messages.
Yes, and people would, you know, they were so good. We were like, oh, they should be optioned by Hollywood. Anyway, enough of us. We should talk to Jennifer.
Let's bring Jennifer in.
Which is, I mean, of course, you know her from her Oscar-nominated role in Bullets Over Broadway, or films like Liar and Liar, the indie hit Bound. Of course, Bride of Chucky, but she's been on Broadway in The Women, Don't Dress for Dinner, most recently, Grasses of 1,000 Colors. And I was always going to say, of course, she is very famous for her World Series of Poker. So please welcome my friend, Jennifer Tilly, the always stylish.
Hello.
It's so nice to see.
I had no idea this was an on-camera show. When I've done podcasts before, it's like a guy in the basement with a cassette recorder.
Yes.
So you said, will you be on my podcast? And I was like, great.
Yes.
I rolled out of bed. I drove here.
And what's so funny is that in doing my research for this, I've been watching I've watched all of your talk show. I mean, YouTube is incredible. Have you gone back and watched any of your?
No, but you know what? I started out with Johnny Carson, and he was
saw
one
it.
of the best.
It's crazy.
I did a bunch of them. I was one of his favorite guests, and I was on so much. My ex-husband, Sam Simon, he got a little perturbed, and he said, "Do you want to be one of those people that's famous just for being Johnny Carson?" He goes, "You're a serious actress. Do you want to be the matinee lady?" And I was kind of like, yes, I just want to be anybody.
Yeah.
But he would always call when the guests fell out, and he would say, "Oh, can Jennifer come on and, do the show next Friday or whatever?" And I would always say, because, and I think Sam gave me some good advice, but I loved doing Johnny. He was the greatest. And he was, the first time I did it, because I used to watch him all the time. The first time I did it, I think it was Bob Dolce. I think he was the one that brought me on. And he said, you have to stick to the script no matter what. Johnny gets bored sometimes. He'll try to go off the script, but you just lead him back to the script. Like, me, like a little 20-year-old, like, make Johnny go back to the script. And I was like, yes, that's a big responsibility. I will try to stay to the script, sir. But I got there, and he also said, because they were doing a pre-interview, and I said, I know how to talk. And he goes, no. I think it was my first talk show ever.
Yeah.
He goes, no, people underestimate Johnny and how powerful his force is. He said, when Johnny walks in the room, he said it's like a north wind blowing in. I remember he said a north wind. And so then I got out there, and I did get a little bit, I was having the best time. But I have to say, I really did get really, really off the script. And so then Bob Dolce was mad, and he said, Jennifer went off the script. She can't be back on the show. And then I went with a publicist later on, and they said, you'd be great with Johnny. And I said, I was on Johnny once, but I got off the script, and so I'm never going back. And they said, we think you'd be great. So they went around Bob Dolce, and they went to Jim McClure, who's the other talent agent. And he said, he looked at the show and he said, yes, I can see where she went off the script. She talked about this and she talked about that. You're not supposed to talk about those sorts of things on the show. And my publicist said, those are actually the things that were on the script that she was supposed to talk about. And then he watched it again. He said, where she was really funny is when she was off the script. So they brought me back and they said, Jennifer, you come on Johnny Carson anytime you want. And don't worry about the script. You don't have to do the script. You just talk about whatever you like.
I watched all of them, and then we're going to get to my favorite question, of course, about movies and the first movie. But I have to say,
I have a feeling I'm going to have to rein you two in at some point.
Oh, but... the one that you watched, though, the one that you watched
I watched every one.
Where did you get them from?
You
watched Craig Kilbert. The only Johnny Carson that exists today was the last one I ever did, and that was like a really
and Letterman.
Yes, and I did. Yes, I did Letterman. I used to do more Jay Leno though, because I was on the West Coast. Yes.
But I watched Roseanne.
Roseanne really liked me. Somebody said that they said, in fact, I read it somewhere. They said, when they did the story of your life, who would you like to play you? And she said, Jennifer Tilly.
Oh, that's funny.
Which which is like a big compliment, would be totally awesome.
But now I'm going to make a comment that maybe again, it's watching things out of context. But in this day and age, all the men were like ogling you, and there were lots of touching going on. And but it seems,
mutual touching, mutual fondling of knees.
Yeah, but you would never do that now. It's watching it.
I don't know. Somebody said, Jennifer, whenever you're on Craig Kilburn, you're always touching his knee. And I used to do that to Johnny Carson, too. I think it's just making Letterman. I touched his knee also. The knee is an erogenous zone. It's well documented.
In your interview, you say, I swore to myself I wouldn't come on and touch your knee, and now I'm touching your knee.
Did I say that to David Letterman?
Yes. I watched all of them.
Well, that's very interesting.
It was fun. Well, because, what's funny is back in the day when you could do a talk show, you couldn't watch other people's performances to say you had to watch it live.
Right.
If you were going to be on, you're like, all right, I better suddenly start watching the show so I know what I'm in for.
Right. Yeah. I'm not always out. I find out how much time I have because sometimes I get away from myself and I'll be like a third of the way through a story and they're like, we're out of time. So then I would be like, okay, condense. But it's difficult because with most of the talk show hosts, they would do the pre-interview and we'd hardly ever do the questions that were on the script. So
Yes.
it was just sort of like a wild ride, like just hang on, and eventually we'll get to the end of the destination, which was the end of my segment.
Yes, I was, as I wrote about, I was terrified. My first experience was Letterman, and I was absolutely...
Letterman, very, very intimidating.
That
Yes.
was, and I had a script, and he went off the script immediately. And he was supposed to ask me about Cape Fear. He was supposed to say, "You're in this movie, Cape Fear. That must have been very tough for you doing those scenes." And I was supposed to say, "I have older brothers and I'm used to getting beaten up." And he did not say that. So they were so scared that because Jacques Cousteau had bombed, that and I wrote about this whole thing, that Robert Morton and Frank Gannon, who was my segment producer, were like, "Are you going to be funny? Let's go over the script," which I later parodied when I did Gary Shandling.
Oh, that's really funny.
I was like, I'm funny, don't worry, but they so were prompting me that I sat down and David Letterman said, "So your parents must be really proud of you being in Cape Fear." And I was like, okay, I froze. I didn't know how to get back on script, but then I steered it.
I'm sure you were delightful.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Anyway, let's.
I remember when I did Let It Ride with Terry Garr, and I used to have I was a big fan of people who are good on talk shows. So
Yeah.
I was a huge fan of
You were
Terry
very
Garr
good.
and Tracy Ullman also. I used to, before she did the Tracy Ullman show, or when you were in the United States, my friends and I used to run home and watch her on David Letterman, like waving her little dog around and everything.
Yeah.
And Terry said that her agent thought that she was on talk shows too much and that it was bad for her career, and they were always telling her not to go on. And she's very bitter about David. She said he made her take that shower. She said, "I told him right off the bat I didn't want to take that shower." And then he's like, "Well, we built this whole shower for you to take a shower." And she said he just kept badgering me and badgering me and badgering me. And that's a very famous episode where she takes a shower on stage over the closing credits.
Yeah.
She said he just forced me into it.
Oh God, I thought in watching all of those, and this is my last thing, is that I grew up watching Merv Griffin, so to me that would have been like being Sheila Graham, or there was Pamela Mason. I don't know if you remember her, but
No.
Okay, Pamela Mason was I wonder if she's on YouTube. She was the free-spirited wife of James Mason, and she'd actually had a kid out of wedlock with somebody else that was not James Mason.
Right. That's what free spirits do.
But she used to come on, be on Merv Griffin. I used to think I'd be happy with that as a career, just to go on.
Right.
They go, "Oh, Pamela, you're so delightful. Come back next
I
week."
remember one night I was watching, and Terry Garr was on. This was before I was on Johnny Carson, and she had just she had just been on the Oscars, and she felt like she'd bombed. She said she read the reviews the next day, and somebody said, "If a brick could sing, it would sound like Terry Garr." Wow. And then she said she was on her way over to Johnny Carson to tape the show, and she said, "And then I stopped at a red light, and there were people in the next car, and they were pointing at me, and I thought they were saying, 'There's that girl who sings like a brick.'" And then she was just sad. And it was really like a lovely moment, because I'd never seen a talk show where somebody just sits and is sad, and then Ed McMahon and Johnny Carson were sad along with her, and they were like, "Oh, I'm sure it wasn't that bad." But I thought, I want to be so comfortable on the talk show that I can go on and I don't even have to be funny. I can be sad for a minute, and they just go with it, because it was such a real moment. But I loved doing Johnny.
Ended. To me, that ended.
Oh, you know what? I don't like how talk shows. I don't really go on them anymore, but I don't like talk shows now that they make people race on tricycles or jump on a trampoline when they're talking, or hit each other with giant hands, or squirt each other with squirt guns. I feel like it's sort of demeaning to the actor. It's like, whatever happened to conversation?
I know.
It's like assuming that the actor is not going to have anything interesting to say, so they have to put him in a sumo suit and knock him down or something.
Yeah.
I think that it's really sort of, I think it's like a bad direction for talk shows.
I know. That's why I love the old, watching the old Dick Cavitz or the old Johnny
Tom
Carson's.
Snyder.
Oh my God, Tom Snyder was the best.
He was a character. He loved to talk. I remember the first time I was on his show.
Great.
He goes, "Would you like some vodka?" And I was like, "Vodka? I'm on TV." And he goes, I go, "Aren't you drinking coffee?" And he goes, my coffee cup is full of vodka, and it was straight up like vodka. I was like,
God.
oh, okay.
Yes, I know they used to all like to drink doing the Tom Sneider show. Okay, I want to steer this car around because we have so much. So much to get to.
All right.
My first professional interview with you. We always start with my first question is, do you remember the first movie you saw and who took you to see it?
The first movie I remember seeing is I was very young. I think I was young. And it was Help, the Beatles' Help.
Wow, that's a good
And my
one.
stepdad took me to see it. He was kind of a hippie. He was like an old hippie. And he really idolized the Beatles. And I went there with all my sisters, and we had a big crush on Ringo Starr. And yeah, we just thought the Beatles were really cute. And I did think it would be really lovely to be a major celebrity and have people chasing you everywhere and have a big ring that you couldn't get off. And, you know, I didn't really understand a lot of it because, okay, I think I was 6 years old.
Yeah.
But I remember that was the first one.
But that's a great first movie.
We all had a crush on Ringo because we're young. You know, I think he's like unthreatening. And then we all like George because George was the pretty one.
Yeah.
And no, Paul was the pretty one. And then some of us switched to George just to be contrarian because nobody liked George.
Right.
Nobody liked John when we were younger. And, you know, George was quiet. So we liked him because he was quiet. And then when you get your big girl pants on, then you like John Lennon because, you know, he's the mad intellectual.
You switch over.
Yeah.
I always liked Paul. I thought he was the cute one.
Yeah, he was.
You know, and then
I was upset when they had that big hoax that Paul was dead. I believed it.
Oh my God, I remember learning that from my brothers.
Right.
You know, my older brothers. Like, what's happening? You know, you're trying to comprehend the world through your older brothers.
Right.
Sadness. You know, I was sad when my first sadness was when Sonny and Cher broke up. That was.
We always wanted to be Cher. We just thought she was so beautiful. And we would have,
I love that show.
In our kitchen, we would have, we'd grab the salt shaker, I would, and my sister would grab the pepper shaker, and we'd sing all Cher songs. Like, I know all the Cher songs by heart. And we'd flip our hair. You know, everybody had long, straight hair then. We'd just flip our hair. And I wrote banter for us because I accidentally spent a couple days on a cruise ship. My grandmother was cruising through Victoria and picked me up on her way down to Hemet. So I was on a cruise ship for a couple days, and I came back and I said to my sister, there is the most greatest career you can have. It's to be a performer on a cruise ship.
Wow.
You're on the cruise ship, you eat yummy food all the time.
There's
true. Movies, you don't have to pay for them. You just walk in, you sit, you watch them for free.
Yeah.
And you perform. And then when you're walking through the cruise ship, then people say hello to you because they know you're one of the performers. So we got our cruise act going.
And so this is what's always surprising. You're one of 9 children. That's a lot of kids.
Yes, a lot of them were stepbrothers and stepsisters and half-brothers and half-sisters. The people with the same mother and father, there's only 4 of us.
Did you all live in the same house?
Yes, we did, for the most part. And people were always coming and going. Like I said, my dad was, you know, my stepdad was kind of a crazy hippie. He was sort of like David Koresh. He was like that crazy.
Yeah.
You know how crazy hippies always think that they're Jesus? It's like, oh, ew, no,
you mean
you're not.
You mean like people who think they're Dennis Hopper?
I really related to your book when I read it. I was like, oh my God, it's my childhood. And I loved when your mom kept going, we're poor now. We're poor now. We were so poor. We had one pair of shoes. We had to take them off when we got home so we didn't wear them out.
Oh my God.
And then we shopped at the Salvation Army. My sister Meg lived in horror that she would, because we lived in a very small town, that she would go to school and one of the popular girls would say, that's my blouse. My mother gave it to the Salvation Army so poor people would have something to wear.
Yeah.
In fact, at Easter, this is what our mom used to do, and she was very clever. We would get her Easter toys. We would play with them she thought children forgot very easily. Mm-hmm. We would get our Easter toys. We'd play for them for a few weeks, and then my mom would collect them all up, and she would say, we're going to donate them so poor people can have some Easter toys to play with. And they'd all go away, and we'd be like, my purple bunny.
Oh, no.
And then, lo and behold, next year, the Easter Bunny would deliver the same Easter toys.
Oh, God.
And you know, when you're a child, you don't think, my mom is the Easter Bunny. You don't put two and two together.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, we're the poor people. First of all, I thought the Easter Bunny, I mean, he has a big operation. He should have a better system so the same people don't get the same toys 2 years in a row. And I was like, well, he's kind of busy, so.
Now, do you think that's because you always had, such nice clothes and such a flair for clothing? Do you think it in some way that stems from not having clothes growing up?
Probably, because I've always felt like clothes is really important. Like, we moved every single year, and my sister goes, I don't want to say this about my mom, but I said, oh, we just really move a lot. Okay, I don't want to say it. My sister says something that I guess is really rude. My mom wouldn't like.
Oh.
Okay, so.
Wait till you write a book about them.
Yeah.
I'll write a book about it.
Then they'll really be happy.
But, the other explanation is our dad was a house painter, a stepdad, and when he painted post offices, and when he painted all the post office, all the buildings in town, we'd move. But my mom was a school teacher. So anyway, every year we had to start all over again. And we just had one small amount to buy some clothes for the whole school year. So we would go the first day and we'd look around and we could clock instantly who the popular crowd was. You could just tell by their air, like how they moved. And every school was different. And so we'd go, okay, the popular kids are wearing earth shoes and really wide bottoms. So you'd run out that day after school and you'd go to the store and you'd try to buy the outfit. The next day you would come to school and it would say to the popular kids, hey, I'm one of you. Bell bottoms, earth shoes, you know. So that's what we would do. We would really try to fit in.
Did it work?
Well, when you're a new kid, there's like a really small window of time where everyone's interested in the new girl, and then it closes up. It closes up about 4 days, and everyone goes back to their cliques.
Right.
So no, they saw through they saw through our feeble ruse. Like, I was hardly ever the popular kid, and I think is that we were kind of like the weird, dirty hippie kids that lived way out in the country. And the other kids had more than one outfit, more than one groovy outfit.
Right.
So I think when I got to junior high school, I moved, I think we had a slightly more money and we moved to Canada. And I was kind of popular, I guess, in junior and senior high school, because then I developed this persona. Like, I looked around, I was like, they don't have an airhead, or ditzy. There's no ditzy character in this crowd that I wanted to be in.
I love this.
So I would be like, hi, I'm here, where am I? I don't know. And everyone would go, oh, Jennifer, you're such an airhead.
It's so industrious of you.
So you were casting yourself.
I was casting myself.
Nice.
I created this person. It was like, well, I'm not the prom queen. I'm not the athlete. I'm not the school president. So it was like, I was perfectly happy to be the airhead.
Did you ever not, because I created being the funny friend. That was my thing. But then it backfired because it was like, you're the class clown. And I was like, oh, I don't want to be a clown. Like a clown.
Did you ever read that book, The Rules? It was back in the 80s. It was about 90s. It was about how to get a boyfriend. And my friend Shanti and I, we graduated to being the funny person. And I remember one sentence, and I remember Shanti reading out loud to me. She goes, they said, boys don't want that knee-slapping, guffawing girl. They were basically saying, don't be funny. Just, be quiet and be pretty. But, I never thought of myself as a pretty person. I always thought of myself as a character actress, which is why I think, I look back on it, and I probably could have been the lead, but I always say, I'm not the girl next door. I'm the girl next door to the girl next door. I would be like, I would always be like the wacky friend or the psycho or the weirdo. Like when I auditioned for The Breakfast Club, I auditioned for Ali Sheedy's part.
Right.
And that was sort of how I saw myself. So I always felt like I have to develop a personality because I'm not very attractive. So it's really weird that whatever you project, that's how people accept you as. When I got to Hollywood, I sort of developed this kind of self-deprecating humor, which I realize is not very good because people glom onto it and they'll repeat the joke and they don't realize it started with you.
Right.
So when I did Seed of Chucky, I played myself, Jennifer Tilly, international movie star. But my friend Don Mancini, who's the writer, we worked on it together. I was like, oh my God, can you please make me like this narcissistic, self-involved diva? And he's like, done and done.
Yeah.
And so I was actually helping him write jokes about me, and the studio rejected the script. They said, oh, she's so unlikable. So he had to tone it down a little bit. But I remember one of the jokes that we came up with is we made myself sort of a failing actress and kind of bitter about all the people that, you know, had climbed up further on the heap. And I had a joke where I said about my career, I go, I'm an Oscar, look at me, I'm an Oscar nominee for Christ's sake, and now I'm fucking a puppet. Oh boy, did the critics and everybody, it was sort of like Jennifer Tilly's career is on decline. Now she's making love to a puppet. Everybody just sort of picked that up and ran with it, like, oh, how the mighty have fallen. And so I thought, like, maybe that wasn't a really good thing to put out in the universe. The sort of picture of myself as sort of a failing, bitter actress. I mean, I personally thought it was really funny. But, you know.
It's funny. I mean,
well, that's the same thing with my talk show appearances. I always thought of talk shows as sort of an improv, not really a conversation. I sort of thought of it as, like, what would I like to see if I was turning on the TV? So I was kind of out there, and then people always thought, oh, Jennifer Tilly, she's on drugs, or she's drunk, or she's out of control. But the talk show hosts knew that I was not out of control. That's like why they like to have me on the show. I give them a lot of stuff to bounce off.
No, I mean, I was savvy enough just watching them to know that it was an act. But it's so interesting. A guy could do that, and they would be, I mean, when I think
they would be like, oh, that Bill Murray.
Or Bruce Willis.
He jumped out of a cake. And if it was me, it would be like, oh my God, what's wrong with her?
Yeah.
She's covered in frosting.
Was there, now, were there other actresses that you know, like I had my obsession with Richard Dreyfuss. That was like, when I saw Richard Dreyfuss, I was like, I glommed onto that persona and I became Richard Dreyfuss. Nobody knew that, but I was Richard Dreyfuss in The Goodbye Girl, and it was so effective.
That's so funny. I remember in the 80s, I saw Sandra Bernhard at a club. And she made this speech, and the gays loved her. And I was like, I want to be a smart-ass gay icon. And it was really strange because about 5 years later, and it's partly because my best friend Paul, when I became a celebrity, he's like, Jennifer, let's go to the GLAAD Awards, let's go to Glisten, let's go all these gay charities, because it was like sort of, he had entree to all of them. And then also with Bound and Bullets Over Broadway. And then now I used to go on these gay vacations with Paul and all his friends because gay men seem to have disposable income. They're always going off to fabulous places. They were like, hey, let's go to Belize next week. And I'd be like, oh, I'm not doing anything. Okay. Like all my friends now at this point, everybody's married and they all have a job. So I used to travel around with all my gay friends for years and years and years.
Was there a moment in your career where, so you've carved out this persona, this is what I always found was interesting, and where you've carved out a persona, and then you think, because like when we worked together in Bella Mafia.
Well, I started out being Marilyn Monroe. That was kind of what I was doing, and that's what I did on Johnny Carson. You know, I sort of continued that airhead ditzy thing that worked so well for me in high school and got me in the popular crowd. And so I think I was doing that for the first 10, 15 years of my career.
Right. Well, and it worked because there was also in the 90s, there was a really available parts to play like that.
Right.
What I always thought was like, it gets into the 2000s and suddenly, you know, they don't have like funny mobsters' wives anymore.
Yeah.
Like that whole genre of movies kind of disappeared a little bit. But was there a point that you said, okay, well now I want to change up this persona, and you know, did you have those opportunities?
Well, I think that when you're sort of young and bodacious and all you have to do is jiggle, then you can really sort of just float around and and be vacant. I think that there's something very adorable about that. But then I think when you get to be in your 30s, number one, they don't write those kind of parts for older women, and number two, they stop being interesting. Like after like a decade of playing sort of the floaty, sort of Marilyn-y character, I just really wanted to play characters that had more bite with it. But it is like when you said at the beginning of the show, let's turn this car around. It is very difficult to turn that car around. But, nobody ever wants to be an aging sex symbol. And so I remember I started really, in Bound, I didn't want to play Violet. I really, really went after Corky, who's like sort of the dykey badass. That's the person, and the Wachowskis were really annoyed. They said, everybody wants to play Corky. Violet's a better part, you know. And I actually said at one point, if you're going to cast me as Corky, I don't want to do it. As Violet, I don't want to do it. I only want to play Corky.
Right.
But... Yeah, I think that the good thing is, as you get older, the characters become a lot richer and more complex, especially in theater. Like, all the really good characters are the older characters because as you become an older actress, you know a lot more about life. But the bad part is they become very, very few and far between because Hollywood is like a giant machine. Studios don't want to make movies about older women that are very wise and have evolved. They just look up on the screen and they're like wrinkles. So it's really hard. I know Russell Crowe once said, the women, they're saying that there's no parts. They just don't want to play those older women parts. I know everybody points at like the 4 women that are working. They're like, look at Dame Judi Dench. Look at Helen Mirren.
Right.
Look at Meryl Streep. Well, we would love to play the parts that they play, but we can't because they're getting them. So there are older actresses that I would love to play Helen Mirren's part or Judi Dench's part. Like now, the person that I really liked for a while was Frances McDormand. Like I wanted to play Frances McDormand type parts and play characters that had sort of a heft to them, like the characters that she played.
Yeah.
But it's very, very difficult now at this point. Everyone said, when you turn 40, your career will slow down, and it kind of didn't. But then sort of in my mid 40s, late 40s, all of a sudden there was no more.
And did you think of that's like when I started doing more writing, because I just saw that the independent film movement dropped apart.
All the actresses started doing the end. This is how I used to say. The actresses used to do the A movies, and the studios aren't making as many major motion pictures anymore. And then the up-and-coming actresses would do the independent films.
Right.
And then, if you're really up-and-coming, you do, like, sort of the things that nobody wanted to do. Now the major motion picture stars are doing all the independent films because that's where all the Oscars are. So everyone wants to, their Monsters Ball, their Boys Don't Cry. But they used to leave those parts for us, for you and me.
Yes.
And Hilary Swank. Hilary Swank became a star off of Boys Don't Cry.
Yeah.
But now what they want actresses to do, like sort of the B actresses that used to do the independent film, they want us to do like reality shows. I cannot tell you how many reality shows I get offered. And I think that's sort of like my take on the reality shows is similar to my take on the talk shows, is basically they want to put you in a situation where you're really bad at something.
Yes,
like a social experiment, like at The Apprentice where everyone's yelling at you because you can't raise enough money, or Dancing with the Stars where you're under so much stress because you're a horrible dancer and your dance partner is going to get fired when you get fired, or even like some actresses on The Real Housewives. I get offered so many reality shows and I love to watch them, and I think it's great for the people that do them, but I feel myself like I'm an actress. I don't feel like I don't really want to be a personality. I want to act or not act. And so, I do things that are interesting to me. I play a lot of poker. I think about writing, but I'm so impressed with you and your amazing book that you wrote. And, of course, you inspired me to think about it.
I think you'd make a great book. I mean, first of all, just going, and then I don't want to get too off track because I want to talk about some of my favorite movies. Of course, I discovered you in the Fabulous Baker Boys.
Right.
Now, he actually wrote that. Is this true that he wrote the part for you?
That's what they say. My agent called him up and he goes, I see you have a part. He pitched me for the Michelle Pfeiffer character, which I think was like kind of ludicrous. And he was like, no, Michelle Pfeiffer is playing the Michelle Pfeiffer part.
Right.
And he said that he had seen me in what was it? Oh, Baby with the Bathwater. And he wrote this part for me. And it was the girl, the terrible singer that sings the Candyman. And I remember after it came out, I was going up the escalator and somebody said to me, he was part of a focus group, and he said, we helped get your other scene put back in. And I said, what? Like, it never occurred to me that your parts would be cut out of a movie. He said originally when he saw it, there was just the original audition scene where I sing in the Candyman, and the scene where he comes back later on and I'm a waitress and, you know, I want to sleep with him. He said that wasn't in the movie, but everybody said, we want to see more Jennifer Tilly, so they put it back in.
That's so funny. I've had that same experience where I've seen...
Thank God for focus groups. We want that girl to come out and sing another song.
You were the best thing in that movie. That's what they always say.
That's so great.
And so that's when you got to be known. And then after that, how much longer after that was then Let It Ride?
And then I was known as a really terrible singer. And I have to say, it's very difficult to sing. Because I just thought, oh, I'll just sing against the beats and I'll sing really out of tune. And, you know, so I sang in a really sort of unpredictable way. And then they were like, okay, great, we got it. And they recorded it. And then I had to replicate it, like, for about 18 takes. But I didn't really know what I did because I was doing really irrational singing. So it was it was way more difficult than actually singing well.
Yeah, that's true.
So Let It Ride, I always had like this sense that I was very, very important, and I don't know why. I went to a read-through of Let It Ride, and the read-through went really well. And
were you in the movie yet, or had you been cast?
I hadn't been in the movie. They were like, Jennifer, do you want to come to a read-through of this this screenplay?
It's another thing they used to do that they don't do anymore. So you'd actually have a shot at, like...
Yeah, because you're reading the whole thing, and you're reading with other actors. You're not reading with the casting director in front of a camera.
Yeah.
And, you know,
can shine.
I did so well, and everybody's laughing and laughing. And then they said, we want you to come in and audition. And I am not coming in and auditioning. They're like, what do you mean you're not? It's like a major motion picture. And I said, I already read the whole thing. It was basically fear. But I just I was like, and they were like, they just want to see you again. And I said, they want to see me because they're looking for a reason not to cast me. I said, I'm not coming in. I refuse to come in. And then finally they go, okay, well, David Giler and the director, Joe Pitka, they just want to have lunch with you. And you know, and then maybe they'll make you an offer. And I was like, okay, I'm going to have lunch, but I am not going to read again. So I went in and we had lunch. It was at this very famous place. It's not there anymore on Sunset Boulevard, that round place, Le Dome.
Oh, Le Dome. Yes.
And I remember Joe Pitka was telling a story, and, you know, I was poor. He was telling a story about how he was searching all over France for this really, really rare bottle of wine, and he finally found it. And I was like, I was fascinated in his story. And then afterwards, at the end of the lunch, he said, I wanted you to come in again because I thought you were too good to be true. So I just wanted to see you read it again, just to see, you know, if I was, and I would never I knew that I'd been right, that I was never going to hold up to the memory of how fabulous I was.
Yeah.
And so they gave me the part, and but the movie, they just sort of threw it out there. It's a cult movie. It was only in the theaters for about a week because what happened is the studio head changed, and when the studio head changes, they try to sabotage everything that was greenlit by the previous studio head.
Right.
But
it's a great film. Very. I discovered it on VHS, but I became kind of obsessed with it.
I love that film, and I loved making it. And Joe Pitka and Richard Dreyfuss were so wonderful to me. And there was a scene where my character's so excited she jumps up and down and her breasts pop out of her dress. And I was really stressed out about it, but my agent said that they won't let you do it unless you agree to do that scene. He said the studio wouldn't.
Right.
And then I remember one day Joe Pitka goes, and Richard got together. They go, Jennifer, because I was so stressed out, I'd never done nudity. They said, Jennifer, we're not going to shoot that. And I go, you're not? He goes, I'm never putting that in my movie. He said, the studio wanted it, but why should I just give them something to look at in the dailies? He says, we're not going to shoot it. We're not going to put you through that. And I just remember thinking that was really lovely.
Yeah.
But they did do some reshoots because apparently the focus groups, and this is where I would love to see the original version. There's this scene where Richard Dreyfuss is so excited about being a winner that he sweeps my character off her feet and gives her this wonderful kiss. And apparently the focus groups thought he might have an affair with my character after the movie was over. And the studio's like, oh, we can't have that. Richard Dreyfuss has to be a fine, upstanding family man. So we went back and reshot that. When I propositioned him, I said, I thought I want to sleep with you because I think you're kind of funny, that's all. And he looks me right in the eye and he goes, I'm sorry, Vicky, that will never happen. You see, I'm in love with my wife. I thought it was a bit on the nose, but they just wanted to put that question to rest in the audience's mind, just to make sure. Just to make sure.
He was. Did you learn? Joe Pytka didn't do too many movies. He was sort of famous for doing television commercials.
Yeah.
But did you learn any comedy? I mean, I as I have said,
Richard is wonderful.
His comic timing.
His comic timing is great. When you're working with people that have good comic timing, it really ups your game. Yeah. And I was working with him and Alan Garfield and Terry Garr. Like, it was just the most wonderful cast. David Johansen.
Yes, all good people.
This is the thing, because I was always such a goody two-shoes. Like, when my ex-husband was producing some TV show, and in rehearsal, we went to go into the stands, and I had just bought a Coca-Cola. And just before we were in the stands, I went to put it down on the floor. And he goes, what are you doing? And I pointed at a sign. It said, no food or drink in the stands. And he goes, that sign isn't for us. And the idea that a sign, a very official looking sign, did not apply to me was so alien to me. I was like, It's not? So at the end of the movie, I remember they're yelling through a bullhorn. They're like, everyone wants to see how the race ends up. Everybody's looking towards the finish line. And David Johansen said, not us. And I said, what? Not us? And he goes, no, we really like each other. We don't care anymore how it ends up. And that was like, I would never thought to do if I wasn't with David Johansen. I would have just done what the guy was telling the extras to do, to be looking towards the finish line. And he goes, no, we're really happy we found each other. So at the end, I was looking at the finish line and we're like getting to know each other, which I think is much better. Yeah, because we stand out from the crowd.
So you were doing and then meeting. Had you been married yet? Or were you married to Sam Simon?
I was married to Sam Simon, and yes, Sam taught me a lot about comedy.
And you were doing television too, right?
Yeah,
because you had a guest.
One of the first where I met Sam was a show called Shaping Up, and I remember he said to me, he gave me a lot of good advice, but he said, Jennifer, I've always been a people pleaser. Your job is not to make it easy for people. And I was like, what? And he goes, look at Shelley Long. He goes, everybody hates Shelley Long. He said, but she delivers. They just cast her over and over again. And he goes, you know why she makes it difficult? Because if somebody says, go stand there, and it doesn't feel right for her, she'll say, I would rather sit here, or I would rather stand there. He said, it's really easy to be the person that's like, those people that say acting's not hard, you just hit your marks and say your lines. He goes, it's very easy to be that person where someone says, do that. But he says, your job is to fight for your character and fight for what you think is right. And maybe some people are not going to like you because it's so much easier to, shuffle people around if somebody's not saying, like, wait a minute, I don't think my character would sit with that person because they hate him. He said, but that's your job. And I remember thinking that was like an interesting bit of advice he gave me.
Yeah, I also think that was an era where you could really have, do the actors need a moment? Now it's like, can we hurry this up? We've got lunch. So you're auditioning this. Now, did you audition for To Die For? I seem to recall that you told me
I did audition for your part, and I came in, and this is actually how I got Bullets Over Broadway, is, just to jump ahead, is that he didn't give us a script ahead of time, and then he gave me like 10 pages to look at, and I went out and I looked at him, and then I came back in, but sometimes I go off the page because there's so much, it was very dense, and then I would just sort of improvise until I found my place. Right. So I went in, and the writer,
Buck Henry,
and of course I'm a huge Buck Henry fan, very intimidated. It was one of the best scripts that I read in a very, very long time, and I loved the part. And I went in, and I did get off the page a little bit, and I did do some ad-libbing, and I felt like he was not happy about that. But it could have just been me projecting, but I felt like Buck Henry, he's like a brilliant writer, and he's like, who is this girl that's coming in and thinks that her words are better than my words? Yes. But I just, at the end of my reading, I was kind of like, okay, I'll go now.
That was a scary room.
Right.
I was like I laughed and that's when I cried in front of Roddy McDowell because I said, "There's no way." I said there were so many important people. I swear to God, I think 100 people. Actresses read for that part.
Right.
And I
who else read for? I always love to hear who else was up for.
Oh my God,
part.
It was Lara
I can't
Flynn Boyle.
imagine anybody besides you in that part. By the way, I don't think anybody can. You were so brilliant in that. Lara Flynn Boyle and who else? When I get a part, I always go, "Who else was up for this part?" I try to find out.
Laura San Giacomo was there. Marissa Tomei. It was
oh
everybody.
My God,
it
that's
was
like such a '90s. Sometimes I'll be looking at old movies and you look at the cast.
Jeannie Triplehorn.
Yes, Jean Triplehorn. They're all the people. Like when in the 80s, I used to be up against Jenny Wright all the time. Remember Jenny Wright?
Yes.
Yeah. And then in the 90s, I was up against, before they became famous, it was always Virginia Madsen, Meg Ryan, Demi Moore, and some other people that I would always be up against. What's her name that married Jim Carrey? Lauren Holly. I used to be up against her a lot.
Yes, Lauren Holly would get things.
And then sometimes I'd be in the Funny Voice Club. Like, oddly enough, sometimes I would be up against, the one that was married to Latka. What's her name?
I can't think, but I was.
Yeah,
I know what
the people
you mean.
with the funny voice, and then there was another actress that was 20 years older than me that also had a funny voice, and I would be like, "Oh, okay, all right, I kind of see." I was in the
this. Then that became the. I was up against routinely then Vivica Fox. It was like we're either going to go we're either going to go black or we're going to go with Illeana Douglas. That was always
my problem now is like I get sent out for grandmothers, and my sister's a grandmother. She's younger than me. I'm totally the right age to play grandmothers, but then they're like, we don't really see her as a grandmother. I'm like, see me as something.
Yeah. Or make you'd be great to play. I always ask to play the guy's part because that's usually. Oh. I don't mind. The Stephen Root part could easily transfer for being you because usually it's either going to be the wife or the.
I'm trying to think if I've ever played a part that was written initially meant for a guy, and I think no, I was not.
Yeah. I've auditioned for many, which is funny. And I once auditioned, Richard Lewis and I once auditioned for the same exact part.
I was up for a guy's part. I went in and auditioned for Jar Jar Binks. And they were really into me because they weren't sure if it was a computer-generated character in Star Wars. And they weren't sure if they were going to go female or male. And the character talked in a sort of a patois. So sort of like, I am Jar Jar Binks. I am so I did it, and they were like, "Oh my God, we love this. We're sending it to George Lucas off at Skywalker Ranch." Yeah. So I was one of the few people they sent off to that, and then they decided to go with the African American guy. And then I remember I saw it with Sam, and he's like, "Oh, it's a step and fetch it." He's like, this is such a stereotype they didn't think about. So I think it was like really funny that I don't think they intended it that way, but people saw it that way because the character was doing, sort of an urban, Ebonic sort of dialect. And remember, there was big controversy that character was racist.
I know.
But it wasn't intended that way. It wasn't written that way at all.
I worked with that actor, too. He was very nice. Nice guy.
He was really funny.
Okay, so let's get to Bullets Over Broadway. And how did that come about? Did you...
Okay, Sam, I was married to Sam at the time, and Sam always has these ideas. He said, Jennifer, you should be in a Woody Allen movie. Like I hadn't thought of it. Like you could just reach out and grab it.
Right.
And I go, okay. He goes, all the women in Woody Allen movies get Oscar nominations. So it sort of cemented in my mind, be in a Woody Allen movie, get an Oscar nomination. So I called my agent, and she said, Woody only uses people he knows in New York actors. He doesn't really use Hollywood people. Now he uses big stars. But back then, they said only New York actors. So I was like, right. Go to New York, be in a play, get in a Woody Allen film, get an Oscar nomination. So I went to New York, and I was in a play. And then my agent sent my reel over to Woody Allen saying, maybe you can come see Jennifer in this play. Maybe you'll put her in the new movie. And he didn't see the play, but he loved my reel, and so he had me come in. So in a weird sort of way, going to New York sort of set in motion a series of events that I went in and auditioned for the movie. And I went on in, and I was sitting next to Chaz Palminteri, and I kind of knew him a little bit from Joey Pantoliano. And I said, have you ever auditioned for Woody before? And he said, no, but from what I hear, sometimes they're the shortest auditions on record. He'll just look at you, and if he doesn't think you're right, he'll just say, oh, thanks for coming in. But if he thinks you're right, he'll say, will you read for me? And so I was like, ooh, I hope he says, will you read for me? And of course he did. And then when I finished, I felt like, because I'd gone off the page a little bit and scrambled, and I said, do you want me to read again? He said, no, I think we've seen everything we need to see. And of course I took that as a tremendous negative.
Yeah.
And then I didn't have to go in at all. Again, no screen test. Like for The Doors, I think I auditioned and screen test, like, I don't know, it seemed like 12, 13 times.
Right.
And so then I got the part. I heard, it was in Hollywood Reporter, it said it was between me and Cyndi Lauper. And that was before I got the part. It said it's between me and Cyndi Lauper. And they called up my agent. They said, did Jennifer leak this to the Hollywood Reporter? And I said, I didn't even know they were still considering me, let alone know that Cyndi Lauper is in the running for my part.
Right.
So, everybody was very, very secretive and,
And he's notorious for not giving direction.
He loved to. How much time do we have? This is a longish story.
Yeah, we've got time.
We got time.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Number one.
We're going to have to come back.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the deal. You're
Yeah.
just going to have to come back.
Number one, he really,
Still
he
have to get to
loved,
female sexy.
he loved when I ad-libbed. There were some actors that he loved, you could say whatever you want. So
Right.
I was one of them, Chaz Palminteri was one of them, John
Right.
Cusack was one of them. Because he puts the camera on wheels. So it's the most wonderful way of working because you never have to do the same take twice. So, you never have to replicate what you did.
Right.
He hardly ever does. He only did 2 cover shots. He did a single on the housekeeper coming in twice. But usually he'll just sort of roll around and just catch action as it happens. So no matter what happens, if a chandelier falls to the ground, nobody ever cuts. You just deal with whatever is happening.
Right.
He likes when it's messy. He likes when people overlap. And so, but he never ever tells you what he wants. So he'll just say, can you do it again? And you'll say, oh, should I do a little? He'll say, just do it again. So you didn't really know. And everybody was very nervous about being fired. And
Rightly so, because he fires everybody.
He fires people a lot. It's very, very, very notorious. In fact, when I finished the movie, they said, we're going to need Jennifer in the month of March for reshoots for about 2 weeks. And the March kind of came and went. And I went, what about the reshoots? What about the reshoots? And they said, we did them without her. And I was like, oh my God, did they replace me? But they hadn't replaced me. But you have to guess who you are with the ad-libbing because there are other people he did not want to ad-lib at all. So the guy, Joe Vitarelli, who played my boyfriend, he looked around and he saw everybody padding their parts by coming up with dialogue. So I remember this one scene, he came up to me and he goes, Jennifer, in this scene, when you say Hamlet, I'm going to say, who is Hamlet? And I'm going to say it like that, who is Hamlet? He said, and then you say, not anybody I know. And then I'll say, does he live around here? And then you'll say, yeah, get out of here. And then whatever. He did a whole scene. And I knew Woody wasn't going to like it. But, he's older than me and everything. So we did it. And then Woody came running up to me because he'll never tell somebody when he doesn't like him. He just replaces them. Somebody was replaced during our movie. So he came running up to me. He goes, Jennifer, can you do me a favor? Can you push Joe out the door earlier before he has a chance to do his stupid ad-libs? So I was pushing and he was trying not to, he was holding on to the door. I couldn't get him out the door. He's a big guy. And then he came up to me after that and he goes, Jennifer, when you said you forgot your lines. When I say, who is before that he said, don't encourage him. He says, don't answer him. When he says, who is Hamlet, don't answer him, don't encourage him. He goes, you forgot your line. I say, who is Hamlet? And you say, and I go, oh, he didn't want me to say anything else. So then he started doing the lines himself.
Yeah.
He just went, who is Hamlet? Does he live around here? I'll break his kneecaps. He just said so those lines are actually still in the movie because I couldn't push him out the door and Woody didn't have the heart to tell him not to say it.
And so does Woody hang out on the set afterward?
No, he's very, very taciturn. In fact, when I finished doing the movie, because he never talked to me by name, he never said Jennifer. He'd always say, Olive, can you move there? Or Olive, oh, this is a good time for you to light up a cigarette, Olive. And I honestly thought, this is really strange, but I thought outside of costume, he wouldn't know who I was. And I wanted to hear him play with his little band. So I asked his assistant if I could get some tickets. And this sounds really strange, but I was very astonished when he came over to my table at the end and he goes, Jennifer, thank you for coming. He said, thank you for coming. I have to run now. My fans are chasing me. And I was like, oh my God, Woody knows who I am. I thought out of costume he would not know who I was. Yeah. Which I don't know why, because I still had the red hair. I wasn't a wig. It was like, my own hair. But Diane Weiss, we would stand around, myself and Chaz and John Cusack, and we'd see her sort of joking around with him a little bit. And we'd say, how can you think of anything to talk to him about? And she goes, well, my first few movies, I couldn't think of, I was petrified of him, she said, but now I've done a few with him, so now we make a little chit chat. So he's very intimidating.
Yes.
Once I walked onto the set and I thought something was wrong. It was so quiet, nobody was moving. It was like a painting, and I go, what's going on? And so goes, shh, Woody is looking through the lens of the camera. I was like, oh my God, he has everybody so well trained.
Yes, the couple times I've been on the set, which of course I was cut from one of his movies, but I replaced someone, so I wasn't fired.
Oh, really?
Somebody was fired. Actually, 2 people were fired.
Who was fired?
Emily Lloyd was fired and replaced with Juliette Lewis.
Oh, right, I remember that, because I did a movie with Emily Lloyd around that time.
Yeah, and I don't know who played my part, but it was literally, I got this call, come in and it was the very last day of shooting, to be Liam Neeson's girlfriend, and I was thrilled, and we just did this one thing, and it was a lot of improv, and I remember again, he didn't speak to me at all. He read the New York Post while I did the lines, or the same thing. I kept trying to be like, my boyfriend's Martin Scorsese. Oh, okay, he's not interested at all. He wasn't interested at all. And then I went to the premiere, and I was cut from the film, and nobody told me. I was really upset.
That's what somebody said to me. They said, Julia Taylor, his casting director, she tries to find out, which he fires somebody. She's like, Woody, you should tell them, because you're the director. It's a courtesy. But she said several times actors have showed up to the premiere with their family in tow, only to see somebody else on screen in their costume saying their lines. Yeah, so she's like, you really should tell them. But then she tries to find out if he hasn't told them, so she can let them know before the movie comes out. Yes. Before they've gone around doing press for the movie. So I have a really good story about someone being fired, but I don't want to tell you on the air, because the person that was.
So you went to the Oscars.
Things to talk about over snacks.
Yeah, over snacks.
I have to briefly get to you're nominated for an Oscar, which must have been like over the moon. Did you have any inkling?
It was astonishing, because they always have the whole pre-Oscar circus, which lasts about 2 months, and they have the SAG Awards and the Golden Globes and the Critics' Choice, and I wasn't nominated for any, but I did not realize. I was very, very naive. You have to be submitted for the Golden Globes, either by the studio or your agent or a publicist. I don't know where my publicist didn't know that. Or the SAG Awards.
Well, people didn't really campaign then.
Yes, they all kind of came and went, and nobody had mentioned me. But the Oscars, you're eligible. All you have to do is be in a movie during Oscar season. You're eligible. Right. And the studio is they're pushing Diane Weiss in the supporting actress category, which I personally think is a little unfair, because she was the leading lady. She's the leading lady in the play, within the play. And I say the leading lady has about, but they said to me, or to my publicist, they said, Woody really thinks she can win in the supporting actress category. It's like, Woody doesn't care about awards. Yeah. So they put her in the supporting actress category, and they didn't promote me at all. And so I promoted myself, because I was like, Gio Leno loved having me on. And he goes, Jennifer, does Jennifer want to come on and promote her movie for, Oscar campaigning? And I said, I'll come on, but only if he uses the phrase Oscar buzz in his introduction. And I remember standing in the wings, and he goes, our next guest has Oscar buzz surrounding her performance. And I was all smug, and I thought, she does now. I stepped out there. So I just did all these talk shows. I took out my own ads, and it's lucky Miramax is so cheap because their ads were black and white. And I remember it's like $800 for a black and white ad in Variety in the Hollywood Reporter, and it was like I think $3,000 for color, which I couldn't afford. But their ads were all black and white. Yeah. So I just put up black and white pictures of me and Woody. There's one picture that I have where Woody is laughing at something I say, like, "Isn't she delightful?" And then I slapped the Miramax logo in the corner, and I put like some of my ads on my quotes on the bottom. And nobody was more surprised than my publicist. On Oscar morning when I got nominated, I woke her up. I got nominated for Oscar. I got nominated for Oscar. And she goes, are you sure?
Oh, wow.
And I go, yes. And she said, did Dick call you? That was the head of the agency. And I say, because he was down there watching, for his clients that he thought was going to get nominated. And then I said, yes, he called me. And she said, well, I guess if Dick called you, I guess it must be true. So then the next day, Dick, the head of the agency, was a very, very smart guy.
Yeah.
Dick Gutman, very, very, very good with publicity. He sat me down. He goes, Jennifer, there's 2 reasons to do publicity when you get an Oscar nomination. He goes, the first is so you'll win the Oscar, and let's face it, that's not going to happen. And he goes, and the second is that nobody ever forgets that you're nominated. He said, I think we should aim for the second. And that's because Diane Wiest had won every single award up until then. And after I got nominated, actually Miramax was not happy because they were worried I was going to split the vote. Then they made Diane, she's so not non-Hollywood. And I saw poor Diane making the rounds, why do I really have to do this? Yeah. But it was crazy. And then my publicist said, you have to get there really early because if you get there later, the real stars are going to be there, so nobody's going to want to talk to you. And I remember
taking all the joy out of it.
Wow.
No, she's just very realistic. I remember she's really annoyed because he sent a white limo, and she's like, I asked for a black limo. And I go, well, nobody's going to think it's actually my limo. It's not. I don't think people are going to see me rolling up. So I get there, and all the paparazzi knew me because I was such a fame whore. I was like, I would show up to opening of an envelope in my outfits and my poses and everything. And I showed up, and they were laughing at me. They go, Jennifer, if you showed up any earlier, you could have helped us set up the cameras. I remember my publicist was pushing me out the door. I still had curlers in my hair. My hair person was running after me, trying to pull the curlers out of my hair. She's like, go, we're already 10 minutes past the time you're supposed to leave. So I went all the way. There's a picture of me going down the red carpet. My train is out behind me like a peacock. There's nobody there. There's just a couple of, publicists, people with walkie-talkies and stuff. And I'm like, oh, and I went down the line. I talked to everybody, and everyone in their limos. I remember they were like, oh, we saw you on the limo while we were coming up when they were all stuck in traffic. Because I was like somebody from, the 5th season of Baywatch going to the Oscars. That's basically, at that point, the only person there is me and Edie Williams. So it's everybody's really happy to talk to me. And then my sister showed up with my mom and my other sisters, and, I had a little bit of sibling rivalry. I wasn't really happy that my entire family was coming to the Oscars, but then it was like, your sister's here. So then I ran back to say hi, and then it was like, let's take a picture of you with your family. And so actually, it was because, my sister Meg Tilly was a very big star before I was, and she was nominated before I was. Yes. So I'm like, I'm my own person. I'm not Meg Tilly's sister anymore. And then the picture that ran everywhere was me on the red carpet with my sister Meg Tilly and all my family. Oh, look, Meg Tilly's sister was nominated, and look at her family. So that was a funny thing. So I went through the press line twice because first I went through and got my picture taken by myself, and then I got my picture taken with my whole family. So I really did squeeze every last little bit of juice out of my Oscar nomination.
That's true. And so since we're running out of time,
what?
I know
my fault.
That's okay. You have to come back.
Okay.
So I'm going to end with: are you watching Feud at all? Do you? Can you ever imagine? Could you do a feud?
No,
with Meg
I had my agent call up and say, for the next season you should do Olivia de Havilland and Joan Fontaine, because they were sisters. They were both Oscar nominated, and they hated each other.
Yeah.
Meg and I love each other. We're like in such
But it'd be fun.
Yeah, but it would be really fun. Like Meg's always wanted to work with me.
Yeah.
Meg and Becky always loved, when we were growing up, everyone called us triplets. They always wanted to, like, I'd go buy a dress, they'd run out and buy the same dress. And then when I'd put it on, they would put their dress on. Like, we're triplets. And I'd look at them, I'd turn around, I'd go right back in the room and change because I never wanted to be triplets. But Meg always, at times she wanted to do a funny sitcom with her and me. I was like, oh my God, that would be my worst nightmare. It's like, but she's always wanted to work with me.
Yeah.
And now I'm at a place where I feel like secure in my own career and everything.
Yes.
That I think it would be really amazing to work with her. And she's, a brilliant actress.
Did you ever do? I was thinking as I was doing your research, and forgive me, if this has already been done, but as a comedy sketch, if you did her parts like Agnes of God.
Oh my God, I could never do that.
And then she did Bullets Over Broad, but as a sketch. Like,
I don't know.
It'd be funny as a
no. What would Agnes of God be like?
And then have her do the Earth Mother version.
Right. Yeah, that's you have some crazy ideas, Illeana.
Well, I think of funny things, but I did think of Feud.
What's going on with the living room show? You haven't done it for a while because you've been doing the book readings and everything.
I've been
right?
doing the book readings and working on TCM and trying to get my own movie off the ground.
We do this living room show. It was so much fun.
Live
It was
living
like
room show.
you have it in somebody's living room, and it would be like
Live variety
magic
show.
acts and comedy and singing. It was just like so fun.
We did.
You keep threatening to bring back the living
No,
room
I am.
show.
I'm going to bring it back. I was doing so many of them, and and it's a great charity called Adopt the Arts, and we had a lot of fun doing it. And I want to get back with Matt Sorum, but I need Matt to. He was really anchoring our Guns N' Roses guy.
Yeah, people love them. They're so much fun to do.
I know. With were you at the show where Tom Jones was there? I was.
Yes, I was. I was there.
Yeah,
at the Manson the Manson house. We did it at the Manson house. It had the vibe. It had the vibe, and then I took a picture with Tom Jones, and there's a waterfall. Maybe it was my imagination.
Like
there were faces in the waterfall, and I was like, I think that's that hairdresser. I wish I hadn't. I started Googling who because there were distinct faces, and one of them was the hairdresser that was murdered there.
That scared me.
My niece said somebody really tried to feng shui this house because there are giant crystals everywhere, and they had the waterfall, which is supposedly good energy. Somebody definitely came in and did a professional feng shui on that house.
That was one of our strangest shows that we did.
Yeah, there was a wonky energy there. I don't know. But Tom Jones, what a thrill.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
That was fun. Because I'm a huge Tom Jones fan.
Were you at that thing at that house where he sang?
Was that the same house? Or
it was the same house, but it was
Yes.
previously. It wasn't during our show, during the living room show. Because he's friends with the guy who owns the house.
Yes, I was. And I was I asked him if he was going to sing the night we were there.
Trying to we were going to stick around if he was going to sing. And it was
but he said, I remember a band was playing, and I said, Tom, are you going to sing? And he goes, too rock and roll for me.
Yeah, there was an after party. So we were finishing up our living room show with our cute little sketches and our Bing Crosby music and everything. And all of a sudden these busloads of these girls in high heels and hot pants and stuff started showing up, and they're all talking in the hallway. And then the guy said, you guys need to we're ready for the after show now.
Yes.
he made his
real show.
Yeah, he made his cut it a little short, and then all these guys with tattoos were unloading equipment, and we're like, wow, that's it's sort of like. It's a Wonderful Life before.
Yes.
And then the after show was A Wonderful Life after if he had never existed. When Potterville turned into casinos.
Well, it's always one of those funny things doing the show because you're doing it and everyone's laughing. And then, you're at the end, you're schlepping your stuff to your car. It reminded me a little bit of a celebrity charity thing I did at the Palm with Frank Marshall. And we got all these celebrities and, Bob Saget. And we're all, and the joke was going to be that all we had to do was be waiters, like
right.
ha ha ha, pretend to take your order, and people are going to get pay a lot of money.
Right.
Well, of course, when people are hungry and they want a drink, they just want their order.
They're not even looking at you. You're like, may I take your order? And they're
So
like,
I'm like, oh, I'm your celebrity waiter. Yeah, I'd like a Kettle One vodka, and I'm like, I don't know how to get anything. And then I saw Drew Barrymore like pose for pictures and leave.
Oh, right.
I was like, wait a minute, does she get to do that? Like she doesn't. We were all here, and it was like cut to. I had such respect for like people like Keith Carradine suddenly became like waiters, like ordering.
oh, right.
2 steaks, medium rare. Can I?
I just did a movie with Keith Carradine. He is like it was a very low budget movie.
Yeah.
He's super mellow. I mean, what a great guy.
Yes, the best. Okay, well, you must come back because we didn't even get, well, maybe a miracle. We did not get to Bellum, our great.
I know. You know what?
Co-starring.
You didn't talk about it.
It was my fault because they
No,
said
it's all
they said
good.
you have 45 minutes. I was like, 45 minutes. I better start padding. And then I realized, and then you're like, well, really? I mean, I have some questions. I was like, well, we're halfway through the show. You're like, I haven't got a word in edgewise.
We'll come back. We'll come
Okay.
back to the Bella Mafia, which was the funniest, craziest, the roulette wheel of insanity.
Where there's a chapter in your book.
There,
It
yeah, I
was
was just
an
going to say
entire
there's a great
chapter
chapter in
and-
the book about
And there's
it.
a lot of crazy things that happen in Bella Mafia that aren't even in her book.
You have to come
All
back.
right, we're going to have to
Okay.
do the all
You gotta
Bella
come back.
Mafia episode.
Okay.
Because my favorite, well, there were so many great things, but I got to end on a final note because it is true that when we did the movie, and I was a big fan of Jennifer's, but believe it or not, I am a little shy, but they kept putting me in her room like they didn't have a trailer for me or something. I don't know, but I am the people pleaser.
Right.
I'm always the one. They're like, all right, everyone else is going to be.
They
a
were,
diva.
and I had no idea. I was like, "Oh, Illeana likes to hang out." I was like, "She's taken a liking to me, huh?" Which, of course, I'm thrilled because Illeana is like the smartest, funniest to me person ever. And she would be like in my room, like lying around. I'd be like, "Oh."
But I think like I was like I would see her in the makeup
being in the
room, and
dark.
I think I don't think they've told her that they're like we're gonna put you and Jennifer together because we know how close you are, and I'm like I've never met her. In
And
my
we
life,
all brought
but-
in our own costumes. Like she had Cynthia Rowley was
Cynthia
donating a
Rowley.
lot. I brought in so much stuff. Like
Yeah.
I say 2/3 of the stuff I wore was ours.
Yeah.
And then I wanted like a little teeny tiny dress. They made me pay for it. Like
Yeah.
I think I paid full price for it. I'm not sure.
Really?
But yeah, and they actually were giving some of her clothes to Natasha.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that
Natasha.
was yes. As I wrote about
Yes.
one day, I was friends with Cynthia Rowley, a very
Mm-hmm.
famous dress designer, and again because they asked us to bring in clothes, I was like, well, I'll just wear things. So Cynthia sent
Mm-hmm.
clothing, and it was on the rack, and it was decided what I was going to wear for a scene. And I walked in, and I saw Nastasia Kinski, bless her heart, wearing my dress that I had already worn in a scene. And I came into the dressing room, and I said, she's wearing my dress.
And the
Like,
director is really mean. There's a scene where we're supposed to be packing up our clothes really fast to go to New York because we're fleeing the mob.
Yeah.
It's very frantic. And she's packing up all the clothes and she trips over something, a cable or something on the floor, falls flat on her face. And the director doesn't go, Illeana, are you okay? He goes, Illeana, very witheringly.
Yeah.
This scene is about packing and leaving. It's not a scene about tripping and falling. I was like...
it was great. He hated me because he loved me for an hour.
Oh,
For
yeah.
1 hour, he
Yeah.
loved me because I was like, oh, David Green. I said, you did this movie that I love. It's called The People Next Door. And he was like, we thought that was great. And then the moment came, our first scene with Vanessa Redgrave, and we didn't know that they had a history. And they started arguing, and Vanessa said something to the effect of, I disagree, and so do you, right, Illeana? And I was like, what am I going to do? Be friends with her? I'm like, ah. So I chose Vanessa to good and bad effect. She did have tequila in her dressing room. So
There you
part,
go.
That part was fun.
There you
Anyway,
go.
okay.
We're going to
well,
talk about the tequila more.
we
next
have-
time.
I
You really
know.
must come back, Jennifer.
Please come back.
You know
Please
what?
come
Can we
back.
just like cut the whole last hour and we can start now and just not even use the last hour?
You'll have to come back. We can do an hour on Bella
Bella
Mafia because
Mafia.
there's so many crazy. It's a performance within a. We created which was always my fantasy. A performance within a performance. within a
love it.
performance.
I love it.
And yeah. It was
Okay,
great.
you can find Jennifer
Yes.
on Twitter and Instagram at
All
JTillaTheKiller2.
these movies I didn't get to.
And Twitter, I'm Tilla the Killer 2, and Instagram, I'm Jennifer Tilly.
Oh, you are? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I
got it.
changed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
I'm
Thank you for
verified.
clarifying that. Also, you can buy Illeana's book, I Blame
Yes, you
Dennis
can.
Hopper, on Amazon and at bookstores.
Fantastic book. I'm in it.
Also, like
Yes.
our Facebook page, check out our website, which is illeanaspodcast.com, and that is all I have to say.
That's right. Everyone's life is like a movie with a beginning, a middle, and an end. Sadly, this is the end of our show. But
Cheers.
it's part one.
Some people's life has a sequel.
Yes.
Yes,
part one.
indeed.
Beginning,
I'm
middle,
going
and
for
end, and a
I'm
sequel.
going for Ruth Gordon. That's my third act. That's what I'm
Nice.
going to do.
I love that.
Love
So
it.
you could.
I'll
you
be
know.
that old lady that lived to be 110 and made pots.
But I remember when we were in Bella Mafia and you said, we're going to work forever because we're character actresses. And I was like, I don't want to be a character. but it was a wake-up call.
I said we're character actresses jiggling around in my little teeny tiny outfit. I'm a character actress.
we had a lot of jiggle on that one.
Yes.
As it was called, Tits and Guns by our executive. Anyway, have a
Bye,
great day, everyone.
everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for hanging out with us.
No, I would have definitely got.
Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network. We would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.